action. So there was the solar eclipse in America. We might have the blackout in Jerusalem. We'll see what happens. So Chodesh Tov, everyone. Dedicating this lesson to the Refuah Shlema of Reb Shalom Ben Sarah Rivka, Bezat Hashem, who's slowly getting better. Oh, Hashem. Everyone feel free to take some water. Okay.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah, so I was there today, and he's still in intensive care. He's still in a drug-induced coma, but off the ventilator. And breathing on his own, just not breathing so well. But that's a big improvement. Okay, so we're learning this week the Lekoved Shabbos Kodesh, lesson Chaf Gimel. So what would that be? Chag. Chag. What is with a kaf? It works because remember last week we learned kamikaze. There was kuf mem zayin, and then one week we learned kipod, which was kuf pei dalet. So this is kog, or however you want to remember it. B'inyan simcha, regarding being happy. Start us off, Michael Avraham. Al pi mashal, we have the example. Shelifamim shebnei adam smechim. Sometimes we have people that are happy and they're dancing. So they're dancing around the circle. They see someone standing on the side. They grab him and they say, "Come on and join us." Shehu ba'atzvut u'morash chora. And this person that's sitting on the side, he's depressed and sad. U'machnisim oto ba'an kocho letoch machol ha'me'akdim. And they bring this person against his will into the circle of the dancers. U'machlichim oto ba'an kocho sheyeh sameach imahem gamken. And they force him against his will that he should be happy with them as well. I mean, how can a person be happy or sad when everyone else around them is happy and dancing? He's going to forget about his problems for a minute. Whatever he was thinking about when he was standing on the side there, when they're brought into the circle, you forget about it. Ken yesh b'inyan simcha, and so also regarding joy. Kiksha adam sameach, because when a person is happy, azai hamarash chora v'yisurim nistalkim minatzad. Then, as a result of his joy, his depression and all his troubles and afflictions are tossed off to the side. Aval ma'alat yetera, but there's an additional advantage to this, being in this situation, where everyone around you is happy, and they're pulling you into the joy, and you weren't so happy at that moment. Litametz liadof achar hamarash chora davka. So when you're in this place of joy, make an effort to chase after your depression, specifically. Bring in all those thoughts that you're having about your bank account, or your relationship, or your health, or whatever you feel is lacking in your life. At that moment of joy, bring it in. La'achnis ota gam ken. Whoops. There we go. Hello. Get the light there. Okay, so I'll turn off the air conditioners. I hope I don't get any chairs. Thank you.
It's like a rock concert.
Now we have lights in there. So, we'll see if that solves it. Okay. Oh, we lost some people on Facebook. It's not a real blackout. It was just the electricity went off for a second. Okay, so they went. They thought we went into depression because the lights went out and like we're all depressed and in the black, deep depression. But that's what we're trying to bring into the joy. So you're going to chase after your depression and you're going to bring it into the joy. In such a way that this depression itself will turn into joy. That the depression and all of your troubles will turn into joy. As it happens when you're in a joyous occasion. Then as a result of being in a happy situation, all this great joy and happiness that's around you, all of your troubles and sadness and depression will be elevated and be transferred into joy. נמצא שחוטף המרה שחורה ומכניס אותו בען כוחה. We see that when a person goes and chases after his depression and brings it against its will, לתוך השמחה, into the joy, kamashal hanal, as the example of above, then he can turn the sadness into joy. The zeh bechinat, and this is what's talked about in Yeshayahu. Sason v'simcha yasigu v'nasu yagon v'anacha. Sason and simcha, joy and happiness, are going to chase after and catch up to yagon v'anacha, sadness and sighing. It's the joy and the happiness that's chasing after them. Sheyagon v'anacha bochim v'nasim min hasimcha. Because sadness, depression, sadness and this sighing, like, oh God, I have such problems. They're running away from joy. It's like you come into the room and everyone's depressed and somebody says, hey, who wants a hug? They're like, get out of here, we don't want to see you. Some people might even get up and leave the room. So that's what sadness and depression is doing. Sadness and depression is saying, what? Your happiness is coming my way? Get out of here, I don't want to see you, and runs out the door. So what do? You have to chase after it. It's running away, you have to chase after it. Ki be'echa simcha derech yagon va'anacha la'amod min atzad kanal. Because it's the nature of sadness and depression to stand at the side, just like the person in the beginning of the example, when the joy comes in. Avan tzarich lirdov achareihem daika. But you have to specifically chase after them. Sometimes it's chasing after a person, and sometimes it's chasing after your depression. Right? Sometimes Friday nights in shul here, we're dancing around the bima, and I'll see people just standing there. If somebody's in the year where they're not allowed to, where somebody died, a close relative, and they're not allowed to participate, then I understand everybody else, I grab them into the circle. And I learned that from our friend Sholem Brat, who is now hanging out in the Beit HaRefuah for whatever shlichut he has there. I saw him every Shabbos. He would go and pull these people, and he's not such a strong guy. Pull in everyone. So I said to him, what are you doing? He said, well, you remember this lesson. We have to do it. We have to actually pull people into the circle. So I let them go after one time around. He'll hold on to them for the whole singing, but I'm a little nicer. I let them be depressed after one time of joy, I don't want to hurt their feelings and make them too happy, God forbid. So you've got the sadness and depression sitting on the side, and you have to chase after them. Aval tzarich lirdof achreihem daika. Specifically, ula'asigam, ula'agiam, and to catch up with them, and to grasp them, la'achnis otam dafka letoch hasimcha kanal, to bring them specifically into the joy as mentioned above. V'zeu sason v'simcha yasigu, and this is the meaning of joy and happiness will catch up to. Sha'asason v'asimcha yasigu v'yitfasu et yagon v'anacha. That the joy and happiness should catch up to yasigu v'yitfasu, and grab onto the sadness and the sighing. Shehem nasimu buchim nasimcha. That these guys are on their way, running away as fast as possible. They're very busy trying to get away from the joy. V'la'achnis otam ba'al kocham letoch hasimcha kanal. And to bring them against their will into the joy as mentioned above. Ki yesh yagon va'anacha shehem asitra chara. There is sadness and sighing that are from the evil side. She'enam rotzim liot me'okava lektusha. That they don't want to be a vehicle for holiness. Ve'ankein bochim min hasimcha. As a result, they run away from the joy. Ankein, and so tzarich la'achriach otam. We have to force them letoch haktusha, into the holiness, tahainu hasimcha. That is the joy, ba'al kocham, against their will, kanal is mentioned above. That's the lesson. Anyone have any thoughts, questions? Besides why am I sweating so much? Well, at least electricity is on.
I have some thoughts.
Please.
Rebbe Nachman, blessed memory, also says that he's talking about fear and how the person himself is not necessarily afraid. It's something inside of him that's afraid. It's not him, it's something inside. So when
Yeah, I got you on the screen. Go ahead. I'm going to turn on the phone.
when you're talking about, it's true what you said. If someone's depressed, there's nothing worse than a happy person. I mean, I spent years in depression. My motto for years was, if you're not depressed, you're missing the boat. And that couldn't be further from the truth, I've discovered, thanks to the Heilige Rebbe Nachman LM, of blessed memory. He also talked, it's interesting, he talks a lot about free will, not necessarily here, but he's saying against their will, against your will. When really, Rebbe Nachman in other places talks about how we have free will always. So it appears sometimes that he contradicts himself, and it can be confusing. But here he's talking about that something else. The depression is outside of the person. It's not the person itself. The Kusker Rebbe talks about holiness and how only God is holy, he says. Human beings can't be holy. I like the way he put it, though, that they can attach themselves to the holiness. The depression, the despair, the sadness doesn't want to be on the holy side, which is, it's all confusing, but joy is the best.
Give us a good laugh.
It's a loaded lesson.
For sure. Well, the idea, so the occasions I can think of when there are moments like this is usually Kabbalat Shabbat here in Shul and at a wedding. The father and I were at a wedding this week. Wasn't such crazy dancing at this wedding, but sometimes there's like really crazy dancing. It's like, a football game. People come out injured. Literally, there was a Gestetner wedding recently, and the dancing there was pretty crazy. And so when you're in this place where you're literally being pulled around, like you just put yourself into this mess of people, and you're being pulled around while the music is going, and everyone's smiling, and they're happy, and they're jumping up and down. And then you think, how big is my overdraft? And like whatever's really bothering you at that moment, like really getting you down, and just give it like a short thought, and then you can forget about it, which is hopefully what you're going to do anyhow. And then again, but you don't want to let that thought bring you down and then you walk out of the circle. You're trying to elevate the thought. So I've done it before. I remember one time trying with the Holocaust, but I didn't experience the Holocaust. And for me, it's, I couldn't really elevate it. It's just like this big black thing. But my own personal problems, I could elevate in times of joy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like it's skipping, almost like it's skipping a step to elevating it, being like a really high level. I mean, I wonder why he doesn't just talk about, if the sadness and depression are running away, I would think like that's a really good thing. You bring in the joy, let the sadness and depression run away and leave.
Yeah, but then they're coming back.
Some of that joy.
Then they come right back. He wants you to elevate them. He wants you to transform them into joy. He's saying, I'm switching the camera here. He's saying that just like, so what's the highest level of a tzaddik? Somebody whose Yetzer Hara serves the Yetzer Tov. There's different levels of tzaddikim. A person can, in Chabad there's the concept of Benoni. So Benoni is somebody who acts like a tzaddik but has all the thoughts of a regular Rasha. He wants to steal but doesn't do it. He wants to be kosher but doesn't do it. And everybody looks at this person and says, wow, he's really got his act together. But he says all these thoughts, he just blocks them before they come into action. That's the Benoni, which the Alter Rebbe said, everyone can be a Benoni. But not so simple to be a Benoni.
Special effect.
Yeah, okay, so I guess I'll turn the fan off.
Just sit in the dark.
And, I don't know, what else could it be?
Much better.
Oh, you like that better?
That sound is better.
Yeah, turn this side off. Not much else left on. I'll turn this light off also.
Does this happen often on Friday nights and stuff? You don't? I've never. Is it well
Okay.
done?
So, in terms of thoughts,
Yeah.
like elevating thoughts, so you said that a way to elevate thoughts is by letting it come into your head and then forgetting about it.
Right,
Which
so...
it doesn't necessarily seem like
No.
you're being like you're elevating them. I don't know.
No, so I didn't mean to say that if that's what I said. What Rebbe Nachman is saying is that we want to take the thoughts, we really want to take the feelings and elevate them and transform them. We want to take them from sadness and transform it into happiness. And the way you do it is by basically forcing it into happiness. So you think of Play-Doh, right? You've got like the red Play-Doh and the blue Play-Doh. And you're taking the blue one and you're pushing it into the red one, and then what do you get, green or purple or something like that? But it no longer is what it used to be. But really, in Rebbe Nachman's lesson, what it would be is you're taking the depression and you're shoving it into the Play-Doh of happiness until it becomes the same color as the Play-Doh of happiness. You're transforming it. And then you had this much happiness, now you have this much happiness. Because it's just increased. You basically took what was worrying you and not only get rid of what was bothering you, those depressive feelings, but transform them into joy. So you could think of it like this. If somebody has a financial problem, the solution is to have money or a regular flow of money. Right? You don't have enough money, now you do. You're no longer bothered by it. And you're happy. In that area of your life, you're just happy. You know, you're lacking children, and then you have children, and all of a sudden, that's not a problem for you. Now you have different problems. But whatever depression was coming about because of what you were lacking, once you get it, then it's elevated. So here he's saying we want to transform those feelings from sadness into joy. And we do it by bringing them into a happy occasion. So, I don't know if I fully answered the question. Oh wait, I just wanted to finish my thought from before. So I was saying the Benoni and the Tzaddik. So different levels of Tzaddikim. So in Chabad, right, Breslov says everyone can be a Tzaddik, and I'm mixing it up one way or the other. Chabad says everyone can be a Tzaddik, or Breslov says everyone can be a Tzaddik. I think it's Breslov. And Chabad says only certain people are born with a neshama that has the potential to be a Tzaddik, but they have to work on it. It's really the same thing, right? If everyone can be a Tzaddik, then that's fine, and if not, then you weren't born with a neshama to be a tzaddik. But it's really not important. What's important is the person. Everyone's born with a Yetzer Hara. Everyone. Even Moshe Rabbeinu was born with a Yetzer Hara. Right? He wasn't born a tzaddik. He was born circumcised, but he wasn't born a tzaddik. And so you have to transform that Yetzer Hara into the Yetzer HaTov in order to reach a level of tzaddik. And here we're trying to transform sadness, not necessarily clinical depression. I don't know if this would work with somebody who really has a chemical problem in their brain, but sadness we all experience. And that can be elevated by a joyous occasion. And if you chase after those emotions, then you can transform them and they'll be gone till you get new ones or till you become a tzaddik. Does that explain it? Or just made it more confusing? I don't know.
Although,
yes.
Barak taught us that the bigger the tzaddik, the bigger the Yetzer Hara. So.
Right. I think that's in the Mishnah. The bigger the Yetzer Tov, the bigger the Yetzer Hara. So because there's more to work on. You know, what's the point of becoming a tzaddik if all you had to do was like that, and now I don't have any Yetzer Hara? The potential tzaddik is born with a huge Yetzer Hara in order to overcome it, and that's what makes him stronger, right? Like we send satellites around the moon in order to go further because it picks up the gravity of the moon. So we're picking up the energy of the Yetzer Hara in order to create a greater level of a tzaddik. So you could say somebody who's got a lot of sadness and they're able to elevate or will reach a higher place than somebody who doesn't experience those big ups and downs. We don't have to answer everything, the lesson, you know. I'm not an expert, I just read what I know and try to explain it as best I can. And here I've got some stories, so maybe the stories will help us understand it better. So one of the stories, for now, I'm reading some stories from my book, soon I'll run out of them, because they have to be relevant stories, not just random stories. So this is a story, I left out the first part of the story, because it wasn't so relevant.
Before you get into that.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I was wanting to be interrupted.
Rebbe Nachman says that one who knows that everything that happens to a person is for their greatest good experiences a taste of the world to come.
Oh, wait.
So if you realize that everything, the worst things that you've ever thought that happened to you are actually for your greatest good, that helps to transform it. You can, as you've demonstrated before, when you were down and out and however amount in debt, you were like, thank you God for the jumping up and down, thank you for this debt.
Right.
Being grateful for
That's
that.
coming in a future lesson.
Be grateful for your, again, another Torah he gives, King David says, in my distress you relieved me. Rebbe Nachman says, in the very problem or challenge itself, God is hiding there as that problem. So he also says despair does not exist, there is no despair, and basically act as if you're happy. These things are really crucial to to becoming happy always. Mitzvah gedola liot b'simcha tamid. Always.
Lifamim, you said.
Lifamim too.
Wait, what's your favorite quote about God's plan?
God plans, I laugh.
There you go. I like that. It's my next T-shirt. Okay. So this is a story called "I Bless Jews All the Time," where I talked about some of the characters in the shul here. Another character that used to visit our shul was Levi. We had actual conversations, so I know a lot more about him than I did about the previous person that I spoke about. Levi was in his late 60s or early 70s when he first started coming to our shul. He showed up one Friday night in the middle of an intense and energetic davening with 200 plus people packed into the shul. He was a very small and thin man and had... Whoops. Okay.
Is it on the timer?
That's electricity.
Right, yeah, it sounded like a timer.
I don't have much else to turn off. Okay, so we'll just... Every now and then, I don't know.
Turn that one off.
Not that one. Wow, this is really crazy, the electricity here.
I have a great electrician.
Fix it.
I'll give you his number.
Alright, there. Everything is off except the lights here. Okay. Keeping everyone on their toes. So he showed up one Friday night in the middle of davening. The very small and thin man who had some type of stomach problem. Maybe it was Crohn's disease or something worse. He was from Russia and had a gold front tooth. We spoke in Hebrew. His Hebrew was very good, though not perfect, and with a strong Russian accent. That night, Levi worked his way to the front of the shul and stood on the little bima in front of the Aron Kodesh. With his back towards the dancing and singing congregation, he picked up his hands over his shoulders dramatically, like he was about to start conducting the shul, and then he did, waving his hands like a conductor with everyone singing and dancing in front of him. He would be going like this while we're right up there in the front of the shul. We're all used to characters in the shul, so while we got a good laugh out of Levi, no one was really bothered by him. Then he turned around in the middle of the davening and blessed everyone with Birkat HaKohanim. At this point, the rabbi lost his patience, and he told Levi to come down from the bima. Levi didn't care. He closed his eyes and kept going until he was finished. I, in the meantime, was up front trying to lead the congregation in prayer. I had to wait for Levi to finish before I could continue. When he was done, he simply walked out of shul. Then the davening continued as before. A few days later, I ran into Levi on the street. He came over to tell me how much he enjoyed the davening on Friday night. I told him I loved having him in shul and he should keep coming, but to save the priestly blessing for another time. He told me he blesses Jews everywhere he goes. Are you a Kohen? I asked him. No, said Levi innocently. I told him that only descendants of the high priest are supposed to give that blessing. Nonsense, said Levi. I bless Jews all the time. They need my blessings. I figured he was right and didn't bother arguing with him. The next Friday night, he showed up just like before. He made his way to the front of the packed shul, raised up his hands as high as they would reach, and started conducting us. This time I was prepared for Levi. I made him my new partner in leading the davening. I tried to pace the rhythm of the singing to his conducting. When he was done, he blessed us again with the priestly benediction. The rabbi really didn't have the patience for this, but I didn't mind. When Levi came down, the rabbi asked him not to do that again and explained some halacha about why he shouldn't be doing it. It was the last time he blessed us in the middle of the davening. Levi would still bless us from the back of the shul, where we're sitting now, or after davening, keeping his distance from the rabbi. Smart guy. One time he walked in on the women's side. In Orthodox shuls, men and women pray with a divider between them. Sometimes men come in from the women's side not realizing. Levi, however, didn't care. He walked in on the women's side and saw Jews that needed to be blessed. He looked around quickly, picked up his hands, and started blessing the women. I thought it was hysterical, but the rabbi didn't. When Levi finished, he came over to the men's side like nothing had happened. I regularly ran into Levi on the street, usually in the shuk, and we would talk. I learned that he had a daughter and granddaughter from his non-Jewish wife from Russia. It upset him that his daughter and grandchildren were not Jewish because their mother wasn't. He kept in touch with her, but she was in Russia and didn't plan on coming to see him in Israel. He had no intention of ever leaving Israel again. This is the Holy Land, he told me. How could I ever leave? We spoke about his poor health. He told me that the doctors don't know what they're talking about. That's why he was treating himself with eating the right foods. I warned him that he didn't look very good. One day I ran into Levi on the street and he told me his health was getting worse. He couldn't really take care of himself like he used to. He said he needed someone to help him for a few hours a day at home, but couldn't afford it and didn't know what to do. I didn't have any experience with this. If I had the money, I would have paid for it myself, but I didn't. He told me there was an option for him to live in a government-sponsored home in Netanya. I made a silly joke that it would take him a long time to walk to Jerusalem on Shabbos from Netanya. A couple of weeks later, he came to shul on Friday night and told me it was his last Shabbos in Jerusalem. On Sunday, he was moving to the home in Netanya and probably wouldn't be back. This time, he danced with us a little after conducting the congregation from the bima. He raised his hands in the air while going around the central bima with a mass of people singing and dancing. I made him a promise that night that I would continue raising my hands in the air on Friday nights after he was gone. I blessed him that he should be back soon in good health. It's been several years since Levi left, and I haven't seen him since. And that was really like maybe 6-7 years ago. I'm guessing he's still in that home where he passed away. The Friday night after Levi moved, I realized it was now my turn to raise my hands in the air. I was so embarrassed that I could hardly lift my hands up above my shoulders. I realized it would be a process. I managed to lift my hands about the height of my ears. That was progress. I did that for another couple of Shabboses. The davening is different every Shabbos. I always try to push it as hard as I can, but I don't always get the same energy back from the congregation. One Shabbos, not long after Levi left, we had an explosive, life-changing davening. It happens a few times a year. It's like your soul is being lit on fire in a good way, and you never want that warmth to leave you. It comforts you and gives you energy at the same time. It's pure positive energy. At the peak of the davening, I couldn't help myself. I threw my arms in the air and started jumping up and down with my hands above me. It was amazing. Lifting my hands up like that released me from some type of anchor down here below. It raised me up and I never came down. It brought me to a new level. I kept raising my hands in the air for many months afterward, and soon realized that other people were following me. They were also raising their hands in the air. You never know what will touch a person's soul and light them on fire. Not many people do it for me, but my friend Levi did. That's the story. And it's really, I've gotten much better at it, raising my hands. Now you're going to see my sweating here, but going like this in the middle of davening. But for me, my personality just was not how I normally am, and I felt very uncomfortable. But then I thought about this lesson from Rebbe Nachman, where he says, you got to elevate the sadness and you got to elevate yourself. And it really did, doing this physical thing of raising my hands in the air. So everyone will be crowded, and I'll just, once I pick up my hands, I can't put them down. It's like I'm squeezed in there, just going around the circle. But it really elevates you. And then, of course, I started grabbing people and pulling them in a gentle way. I'm kind of big and strong, so I can handle just about anyone. And if people, they really freak out, then I give them a hand, and I give them a nice handshake, and then the next time around, I shake their hand again, and I'll smile at them, and sometimes they get the hint and they come in. All right. That's what, every 5 minutes, I turn all the electricity off in the shul. Maybe I should put the fans back on. It's going to go off anyway. You didn't like the sound. The sound. It's the sound of silence. No, it's the one you slide over here. Yeah, it's the electricity. It's the electricity. Look, these are the only lights on in the shul. On the last session. That's because you had your earplugs in. No. Oh, really? You can play whatever you want there. It's marked there. Don't worry about it, put your headphones on. Okay, so I've got two stories for you. Should we just turn everything on? You won't hear it. It's probably the electricity.
No, it's coming from the box.
Okay, from the box. Okay, so now everybody's left us on Facebook. Don't worry. I love you anyhow.
Does the share still exist if there's no one on Facebook?
Yeah, well, a few hundred people watch it afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, views. I don't know if they're actually watching it. Kind of shows up, and you see, and then it just passes them. Okay, so Moshe the water carrier. Let's just turn on the fan. It's almost hot. And if the electricity's going to go out, doesn't matter.
Maybe you should just reset it while you're up.
Reset what?
The electricity. Give it another few minutes.
Turn it on.
Timer.
Okay. Okay, so the first story is Moshe the water carrier. Everybody knows Moshe. There's lots of stories about him. He's like, the water carrier Rebbe. And Moshe was a simple Jew. And once a year he would go visit his Rebbe, the Lubliner, the seer of Lublin, Chozeh Lublin, and get a bracha before Rosh Hashanah. So he was heading to him in the month of Elul, and it was getting closer and closer, so I guess towards the end of the month, closer and closer to Rosh Hashanah. And he shows up to the seer of Lublin, and as soon as the seer of Lublin sees him, he says, Moshe, get out of here right now. I don't ever want to see you again. Now, out of here. Go home. And Moshe is like, what did I do? Why? What? And the Rebbe says to him, get out of here. Go home. I don't want to see you. Get out of here. So he's really upset because he saved up all of his money to make this trip, and most of it he walked, and it took him a long time to get there. And this is his Rebbe, and he was hoping he was going to get a bracha. And on the way, he stops in a little kosher tavern, and there's some Jews that are also on their way to the Seer of Lublin, and they're saying the Chaims, and everybody's saying the Chaim, and they see Moshe the water carrier walk in, and he's all depressed. And they say, Moshe, what's the deal? What's going on? And he says, I went to the Rebbe, and he shouted at me and told me to get out of here and go back home. And I don't want to go back home. I want to go to the Rebbe. And I want to get a bracha from the Rebbe, but he doesn't want to see me. So they said, oh, Moshe, don't worry about it. Say L'chaim. So he says L'chaim, and they're singing, you know, we're on our way to the Rebbe, they're singing the songs, and Moshe gets into it, and they say, Moshe, say L'chaim. He says another L'chaim. He starts singing with them, he starts dancing with them, and then finally they've gotten like really good and ready to see the Rebbe, and they jump out of the tavern, and they get on the wagon, and they say, Moshe, let's go. And Moshe says, I can't. The Rebbe doesn't want to see me. I can't go back there. And they say, don't you know that the halacha is that you have to listen to everything the Baal Habayit says, except when he says, get out? So, you're allowed to go back. Don't worry about it. He says, okay, fine. He gets in the wagon, and they're singing the whole way, and everybody gets off. And as soon as they get off the wagon, Moshe sees the seer Rabin standing in the doorway, and he's staring at him. He says, come here. And Moshe, of course, is scared. And he goes up to the Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, I'm sorry, I know you told me to leave, but the Hasidim and the dancing and, you know, I just got so caught up in it and I really wanted to see you. He says, don't worry, it's okay now. And Moshe said, I don't understand, what are you talking about? He said, when you came here, I saw the angel of death was right behind you. And so I shouted at you, get back home so that you'd have a chance to say goodbye to your wife and children before you left this world. But when you went to that tavern and you met those Hasidim and you started drinking and dancing and singing and being so joyous, the angel of death left you. He left you. He didn't need you anymore. He had other work to do. So by the time you got here, I could give you a bracha, and everything was going to work out again. He said, with friends like those, you can live forever. So that's one story. Another story, I need some guitar. Michael Abraham will help me with the chords, or at least make funny faces if I play the wrong one. Lekoved shabbos, Lekoved shabbos, Lekoved shabbos. Oh, that's good. Lekoved shabbos. Do you mind turning on the switch there? It's up on top. The top one. I lie, 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 I lie. Like another 10 minutes, don't worry about it. So everyone knows the town of Auschwitz, right? We all have an association with this town. It's become famous because of what the Nazis in Hullman did there. But before it was famous as this Holocaust city, it was known as a big town of Hasidim, big center for Hasidim. And I don't know if you know this, the Jews in Europe would give the European towns Jewish names. So I can't remember any of them right now, but what did they call Auschwitz? They called it Ushpizin. Ushpizin, which is like Ushpizin, which is like the guests that come on Sukkot. And in the town of Ushpizin, 200 years ago, was a great and holy rabbi whose name was Dov Ber Ushpizin. The Ushpiziner. It's kind of hard for me to say, my American mouth. Bershel Ushpiziner. So he wrote a book. He was a Rebbe, and he wrote a book. And in the introduction of his book is this story. So that's where the story is from. So the Ushpiziner, he was looking for a Rebbe. This is before he was a Rebbe. And he decided that he was going to go to Reb Shlomo. I want to get the names right, so I wrote them down here. Buchner of Chashanov. Probably said it wrong, but anyhow. So Reb Shlomo, we're going to call him Reb Shlomo. So this guy, Reb Bershele, he said, I need a Rebbe. And what's a Rebbe? Everyone knows what a rabbi is. A rabbi, you go to him and you say, can I eat this? Can I not eat this? Can I do this? Can I not do this? That's a rabbi. But a Rebbe takes you out of this world. He connects you with your neshama. He connects you with your mission in life, right? Michael, Abraham, and I, we have a Shabbos Chavuta. So we've learned on Shabbos that you need a Rebbe. When you're in the womb, this is what Rebbe Nachman says, when you're in the womb, you learn all the Torah, and then the angel comes and touches you here, and then you have to find your Rebbe in order to relearn what your purpose in life is. So now we don't have Rebbes like we used to back then. But so Rebbe Shaleh was looking for a Rebbe, and he decided that he was going to, he checked out all the Rebbes, but didn't connect with any of them. And then he heard that this Rebbe, Reb Shloimeh, was coming to Ushpizim for Shabbos. And he figured, okay, I'm going to go spend Shabbos by this Rebbe. But he said when Avraham sent Eliezer to bring back a bride, he said you need to find signs. So this guy, Rebbe Shali, he said, I'm going to make a sign for this Rebbe to see if he's a real Rebbe and to see if he can be my Rebbe. So I'll tell you what the sign is in just a second. Everybody in Ushpizim was holy, right? Everybody kept Shabbos back then. There weren't people that left. There was no reform movement. There was no secular anything 200 years ago, whatever it was, 250 years ago. And it must have been closer to 200 years ago. And there was one simple Jew, his name was Chatzkeleh. And everybody called him Chatzkeleh Lekoved Shabbos. And Chatzkeleh, he was a strong guy. And he didn't have any education, could hardly read, knew some of the prayers, knew some psalms. And so what did he do for a living? He became a porter, a traeger in Yiddish. He went and carried stuff in the shuk. And so it would be Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, he'd be in the shuk and Chanala would be there. And Chanala would buy, 10 kilos of potatoes. And she'd say, Chatzkeleh, come on, I can't carry this, come, I'll pay you to carry it. And he picks up the potatoes, says, Chanala, tell me this is 10 kilos of potatoes. You think there'll be one potato left for Shabbos? And she said, yeah, for sure. She thinks to herself, I'll be nice to Chatzkeleh. I'll tell him that there'll be at least a potato left for Shabbos, and with all these potatoes, how could there not be? And he said, if that's the case. He picked up the potatoes, and he holds them over his head, and he says, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos. And with that, it gave him the strength to carry everything he needed. Everything for him was the Lekoved Shabbos. The people, they made fun of him. They said, he's uneducated, and this is the only way he can make a living. And he sings the Lekoved Shabbos on Sunday when he's carrying potatoes. But this guy, Rebbe Shaleh, who we started the story off with, and he wrote this in the introduction to his book, who was looking for a Rebbe, he said, this is going to be my sign. I'm going to come Friday night with Chatzkeleh, and we're going to stand there in the corner, and when everybody goes to the Rebbe and shakes his hand and says, Good Shabbos, I'm going to see if the Rebbe comes and talks with Chatzkeleh. If he talks with Chatzkeleh, and not just talks with him, but really is interested in what he has to say, then I'll know he's my Rebbe. And if not, then he's not the real thing. So, Friday night, the davening is very high, lots of singing and dancing, and afterwards everybody rushes to shake hands with the Rebbe. And this guy, Rebbe Shaleh, and Chatzkeleh, they're sitting on the side. Chatzkeleh because he was shy, and Rebbe Shaleh because it was his test. And after everybody left, Reb Shloimeh comes over to them, and he says, Shalom Aleichem, and he says, so tell me, who are you? He says to Chatzkeleh, who are you? And Chatzkeleh, he's really shy. And he says, my name is Chatzkeleh. And the Rebbe says to him, tell me, Chatzkeleh, is that your only name? He said, no. People actually call me Chatzkeleh Lekoved Shabbos. And he said, really? They call you Lekoved Shabbos. I'm so jealous of you. I wish I had a nickname like that, to be called Lekoved Shabbos. He said, you must be a very special person. Tell me, how did you get this name, Lekoved Shabbos? He said, well, I was orphaned at a young age, but I realized I was strong, and even though I didn't learn very much, I just learned a little bit of the davening and some tehillim, I realized I can go to the marketplace, and I could carry stuff and make a living. And Baruch Hashem, now I'm married, and have a wife and children, and that's how I make my living. And the Rebbe said, yeah, but what do you do that makes people call you Lekoved Shabbos? He said, well, I ask people, is this food possibly for Shabbos? And if they tell me it's for Shabbos, then I pick it up and I sing Lekoved Shabbos. He said, on Sunday I ask, and on Monday, Tuesday, but by Wednesday I know that everything's for Shabbos, and Thursday for sure. Friday, that's my day. Everything I touch is Lekoved Shabbos. I pick up all the vegetables, all the food, whatever it is, and I sing Lekoved Shabbos. Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos. Lekoved Shabbos. Lekoved Shabbos. So the Rebbe says to him, why? Why? Okay, I know you're saying Lekoved Shabbos, why are you singing? What's the song about? And he says, Rebbe, and now he's holding the Rebbe's hand and he starts to cry. He says, Rebbe, I know the beginning, but I don't know the end. I'll sing while you turn the light on. It's the top one up there. Whatever you did, just leave it. Okay, so he says, I'm singing. And he says, I'm singing because I know the beginning, but I don't know the end. I know that Hashem created the world. He created heaven and earth. He created the forefathers and the mothers and took us into Egypt and took us out of Egypt and brought us to the Holy Land and built the temple and destroyed the temple and exiled us. And now we're in exile for so long. And I don't know how long it's going to last. So that's why I'm singing. That's my prayer. My prayer is Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos. And the Rebbe says, if you're singing Lekoved Shabbos all the time, then you know the secret. Because that's Judaism. That's what it's all about. He said, if you know what it means, Lekoved Shabbos, you know what it is to be a Jew. And he said, when all the Jews are going to sing Lekoved Shabbos, then Mashiach is going to come. So, after that Shabbos, Rebbe Shaleh, he realized, Amen. He realized that this was his Rebbe, and he went and learned with him. But Reb Chatzkeleh disappeared after that Shabbos, and he didn't see him again. And Reb Shloimeh taught Rebbe Shaleh for many years, and eventually Rebbe Shaleh took his place when Reb Shloimeh, he says in the story, was tired of this world, and he left. And Rebbe Shaleh, whose book we learned this story from, he became the Rebbe. And many, many years passed, 20, 30 years passed. And one day he's walking in a distant town, and he hears this song. Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos. He sees an old man in the marketplace sitting there singing Lekoved Shabbos. And he realizes that of course it's Chatzkeleh Lekoved Shabbos. And he said, Reb Shloimeh, he made me a Rebbe. But Chatzkeleh, he made one of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim. And Chatzkeleh's job was to go around helping people Lekoved Shabbos Kodesh. Many years later, the Nadvorna Rebbe, who was in Bnei Barak and passed away, I'm guessing 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So one time, it was Shabbos, and he was served the soup, and he refused to touch the soup. And everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. And his wife said, I know what's going on. Every Shabbos, my husband goes into the Nadvorna, goes into the kitchen and says, while you're cooking the food, make sure when you're stirring everything and cutting everything, you say Lekoved Shabbos Kodesh. She said, we have a new cook. And she didn't know that when she made the soup, she had to say Lekoved Shabbos Kodesh. And my holy husband could taste that the soup wasn't ready yet for Shabbos. So he said, everything you do, make sure everything you do Lekoved Shabbos Kodesh. Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos, Lekoved Shabbos. Okay. As always, we'll do it again next week. Bezat Hashem. Should have a Lekoved Shabbos week.
Amen.
Amen.
Your Lekoved Shabbos should be Lekoved Shabbos.
Amen. Amen.
All right.